Once again, good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. As always, I am Zach, the Corruption Detector, and this is another edition of Red Pill News. I hope you're having a lovely day and that you've had a marvelous afternoon as well. We're going to be going through some incredible news today. First of all, that report we have been waiting on, the Senate Finance and Homeland Security Committee report on Hunter Biden and Ukraine corruption, has been released. We're going to be taking a look at the findings in detail. Then we're going to be talking about an announcement from Lynn Wood. He is the lawyer for Kyle Rittenhouse. An 11-minute documentary has been created, and it fills in all the gaps and it exposes all the lies about what happened that fateful night in Kenosha. And then finally, we're going to be talking about the Department of Justice's proposed revisions to Section 230. This has been done on behalf of the administration, and it aims to take a look at Section 230 and put reforms in place that will hopefully stop what's been happening to people like you and I online, the censorship of conservative voices. We're going to go over all this and more, so please sit back, relax, grab your popcorn, and we'll be right back after a very brief word from our sponsor. Nationwide spending on riot gear has soared 114% in order to combat the violent riots and protests happening all around the country. A reported $28.6 million has been spent by the federal government on non-lethal weapons and armor for the Justice Department, Homeland Security, and other agencies. Tensions in the U.S. have never been higher. Protest the insanity and keep yourself and your family safe with your own non-lethal weapons. My family and I trust the Fighter Flare flashlight. The Fighter Flare is a solar-powered, all-in-one tactical flashlight with over 800 lumens. It's just as useful for being seen from 500 meters away as it is an extremely effective self-defense tool to blind any oncoming attackers from a distance. The Fighter Flare also comes with 4 unique lighting modes, including a life-saving emergency strobe light, and you can charge your phone from anywhere with it using the built-in USB port. The Fighter Flare flashlight is an all-in-one lifesaver, and I wouldn't go anywhere without it, and neither should you. It truly is the first tool I'll go to in any emergency. Go to fighterflare.com or click the link in the video description or pinned comment below. You'll get 50% off plus free shipping on your own Fighter Flare flashlight. And remember, when you support my sponsors, you support this channel. All right, guys, thanks for sticking around. First of all, today we are going to be taking a deep dive into the long-awaited report. The report released just this morning by the GOP-led Senate Homeland and Government Affairs and Finance Committees. Several committees using their collective power to get to the bottom of the Hunter Biden-Ukraine Burisma scandal, and boy, have they done it. And none too soon, I might add, as the first debate between President Trump and sleepy Joe Biden is just days away. Now, the revelations in the report would be shocking if we hadn't all been expecting them, but they do get into some areas that I think many of us weren't necessarily expecting. Obviously, conflicts of interest, criminal financial transactions, counterintelligence and extortion claims, bribery, and potential sex trafficking, to name but a few. Now, the report details suspicious financial transactions between firms owned and associated with Hunter Biden and foreign nationals from both Russia and China. But where is the mainstream media? If this report was about Don Jr., the findings would be front-page news, with CNN panelists crying foul and never-ending chyrons displaying tales of corruption until the day of the election. But Hunter Biden is off-limits. Any investigation into him is merely a political tool designed to help the president, or so the fake stream media would have you believe. Now, Adam Schiff has already made an official statement saying as much, claiming that the report itself was directed by President Trump and carried out by his willing allies in Congress, also claiming that Putin must be overjoyed that the son of Trump's challenger has been exposed as the one actually engaged in real Russian collusion amid other crimes. But if it was Hunter Biden involved with the Russians, wouldn't Putin want to keep this covered up? I mean, that's what any intelligent American might ask, but then again, no one ever accused Adam Schiff of being intelligent. So let's take a look at the findings in detail. We know that Hunter Biden joined the Burisma board back in 2014, just shortly after Joe took on the reins there in Ukraine, and the report stops short of accusing Hunter of any specific crimes, but it heavily insinuates his business relationships were entirely based upon the favor curried as the son of the sitting vice president, which, at its core is certainly unethical. But Hunter Biden did receive a $3.5 million wire transfer from the wife of Moscow's former mayor. Her name is Elena Baturina. We also know that Treasury did flag payments collected overseas by Biden and his partner Devon Archer as suspicious and possibly as payments for illegal activities. But that went nowhere because, of course, Hunter was the son of Joe Biden, the vice president in the administration at that time. Now, it's unknown whether or not the FBI got involved, but if they did, I'm sure they were told to just wipe their hard drives because who wants the hassle unless your last name is Trump? And it's not just Hunter. The financial transactions demonstrate probable criminal financial activity related to not only Hunter, but also his family, including Joe's brother and Hunter's uncle, James Biden, the same one who used to own a small island near Little St. James. Now, a Chinese businessman with ties to the CCP one time wired $100,000 to Awasico, the Biden law firm, and then just a month later, Hunter and a U.S. associate of that Chinese businessman opened a shell company and applied for a $100,000 line of credit, which the Biden family promptly used to fund lavish expenses like plane tickets, hotel stays, and purchases at Apple stores. Now, Hunter also paid non-resident women who were nationals of Russia and other various Eastern European countries who appeared to be linked to prostitution rings and Eastern European human trafficking rings. The volume of probable illegal activity contained in this report is a major vulnerability for Joe Biden, leaving him open to extortion and coercion, or perhaps just open to committing additional crimes. Biden and his team say the report is an effort to subsidize a foreign attack against the sovereignty of our elections with taxpayer dollars, but Senators Grassley and Johnson aren't the ones who were accepting bribes from Russian, Chinese, and Kazakh nationals. They weren't paying prostitutes and victims of human trafficking. They weren't the ones taking loans from the Chinese Communist Party. That was all the Bidens. They are the ones who stand to lose here. And the American public will be the ones that stand to lose if they don't understand the magnitude of these vulnerabilities and these probable crimes and end up electing a president with this much baggage. Now, for years, we've been saying the Democrats are masters of projection. Every time they accuse President Trump of a crime or a conflict, it's been they themselves who were the guilty party. Let's take a look now at the report and its findings as presented in detail. All right, so from the report itself, back in 2015, acting deputy chief of mission at the U.S. Embassy in Kiev in Ukraine, George Kent, raised concerns to officials in Vice President Joe Biden's office about the perception of the conflict of interest with regard to Hunter Biden and his role on the board of Burisma. Those concerns went unaddressed, and then in September 2016, he emphasized in an email to colleagues that the presence of Hunter Biden on the Burisma board was very awkward for all U.S. officials pushing an anti-corruption agenda in Ukraine. Then in October 2015, a State Department official, Amos Hochstein, raised concerns with Vice President Joe Biden directly, as well as with Hunter Biden, saying that Hunter Biden's position on Burisma's board enabled Russian disinformation efforts and risked undermining U.S. policy in Ukraine. Now, although Kent believed that Hunter Biden's role on Burisma's board was awkward for all U.S. officials pushing this anti-corruption agenda, the committees are only aware of two individuals, and that would be Kent and Hochstein, who were the ones who actually raised any concerns to Vice President Joe Biden or his staff. Now, the awkwardness for Obama administration officials continued well past his presidency. Former Secretary of State had knowledge of Biden's role on Burisma's board, but in a town hall event in Nashua, New Hampshire back in December of 2019, he lied. He said, "I had no knowledge about any of that. None. No." However, evidence to the contrary has been found by the committees. That's in Section 5, apparently. Now, former Assistant Secretary of State for European and Eurasian Affairs Victoria Nuland testified that confronting oligarchs would send an anti-corruption message in Ukraine. And Kent raised the concern that Zlochevsky from Burisma was himself an odious oligarch. But in December of 2015, instead of following that objective set out by the U.S. to confront oligarchs, Vice President Joe Biden's staff advised him to avoid commenting on Zlochevsky and recommended he say, "I'm not going to get into naming names or accusing individuals," because it would have put his son in an awkward position. Hunter Biden was serving on the board of Burisma when Zlochevsky allegedly allegedly paid a $7 million bribe to government officials in Ukraine's Prosecutor General office to shut the case against Zlochevsky. And Kent testified that the bribe occurred in December of 2014, just 7 months after Hunter had joined that board. And after learning about it, he and the resident legal advisor actually reported the allegation to the FBI. Hunter was a U.S. Secret Service protectee from January 2009 to July of 2014, and a day before his last trip as a protectee, Time magazine published an article reporting on Burisma's lobbying efforts in the U.S. and to U.S. officials, as well as Hunter's involvement on Burisma's board. And before ending his Secret Service protective detail, Hunter Biden received Secret Service protection on trips to multiple foreign locations, including, but not limited to, Moscow, Beijing, Doha, Paris, Seoul, Manila, Tokyo, Mexico City, Milan, Florence, Shanghai, Geneva, London, Dublin, Munich, Berlin, Bogota, Colombia, Abu Dhabi, Nairobi, Hong Kong, Taipei, Buenos Aires, Copenhagen, Johannesburg, Brussels, Madrid, Mumbai, and Lake Como. Now, Andrei Telizhenko, the Democrats' personification of Russian disinformation, met with Obama administration officials, including Elizabeth Zentos, a member of Obama's National Security Council, at least 10 times. A Democrat lobbying firm, Blue Star Strategies, contracted with Telizhenko from 2016 to 2017 and continued to request his assistance as recently as the summer of 2019. Now, a recent news article detailed other extensive contacts between Telizhenko and the Obama administration officials. In addition to the $4 million paid by Burisma for Hunter Biden and Devon Archer's board memberships, Biden, his family, and Archer received millions of dollars from foreign nationals with questionable backgrounds. Archer received $142,300 from a Kazakhstan national, purportedly for a car, on the same day that Vice President Joe Biden appeared with Ukrainian Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk and addressed Ukrainian legislators in Kiev regarding Russia's actions in Crimea. I'm sure there's no connection there, though. Hunter Biden received $3.5 million in a wire transfer from Elena Batura, that was the wife of the former mayor of Moscow, and Hunter opened a bank account with Guangdong Dong to fund a $100,000 global spending spree by his family members, James and Sarah Biden. Hunter also had business associations with Yi Jianming, Guangdong, and other Chinese nationals linked to the Chinese Communist Party and the government and the People's Liberation Army. Those associations resulted in millions of dollars in cash flow, and Hunter Biden paid non-resident women who were nationals of Russia or other Eastern European countries and who appear to be linked to Eastern European prostitution or human trafficking rings. Hunter Biden himself being directly involved with human trafficking rings. Now, since the release of this report and the reporting on it, we've gotten some new posts from our favorite Anon, so let's move to those. First, in post 4742, we have a link to a status from John Solomon on his report about this report from the Senate. And our favorite Anon says, political leaders plus family follow with possible ties to sex trafficking. Attacks barrage by media signify what? Sex trafficking, safeguarding women and children, topics that unite all political factions against a common enemy. Faith and humanity? Those you are taught to trust the most. And clearly our favorite Anon is telling us right here that this is an issue that all of us can get behind. The media barrage attacking people like us who are trying to bring this information to the forefront signifies that they are definitely in on it. We are taught to trust our leaders. They're the ones who are supposed to be taking care of us. They're the ones who are supposed to be safeguarding our nation. However, it turns out that they are actually involved in some of the most disgusting crimes against humanity we've ever seen. Now, the next post, 4743, is just that, crimes against humanity. This is what Hunter Biden has been involved in, and this is what many of our political leaders and their family members have been involved in as well. Then post 4744, and it's a link to that article I was planning to cover from the Justice Department talking about the changes to Section 230. Let's go there next. All right, so what we have here is a press release from the Department of Justice about the proposed Section 230 legislation they've put out on behalf of the administration. Now, it says here, for far too long, 230 has provided a shield for online platforms to operate with impunity. Ensuring that the internet is safe, but also vibrant, open, and competitive environment is vitally important to America. We therefore urge Congress to make these necessary reforms to Section 230 and begin to hold online platforms accountable accountable, both when they unlawfully censor speech and when they knowingly facilitate criminal activity online. The department's proposal is an important step in reforming Section 230 to further its original goal, providing liability protection to encourage good online behavior. The proposal makes clear that when interactive computer services willfully distribute illegal material or moderate content in bad faith, Section 230 should not shield them from the consequences of their actions. Now, the Department of Justice's legislation focuses on two specific areas of reform, both of which, at a minimum, are necessary to recalibrate the outdated immunity of Section 230. The first would be proposing transparency in online discourse. They say the draft legislation has a series of reforms to promote transparency and open discourse to ensure that platforms are fairer to the public when removing lawful speech from their services. The current interpretations of Section 230 have enabled online platforms to hide behind the immunity to censor lawful speech in bad faith and is inconsistent with their own terms of service. To remedy this, the department's legislative proposal revises and clarifies the existing language of Section 230 and replaces vague terms that may be used to shield arbitrary content moderation decisions with more concrete language that gives greater guidance to platforms, users, and courts. The legislative proposal also adds language to the definition of information content provider to clarify when platforms should be responsible for speech that they affirmatively and substantively contribute to or modify. And then the next section is addressing illicit activity online. The second category of amendments is aimed at incentivizing platforms to address the growing amount of illicit content online, while preserving the core of Section 230's immunity for defamation claims. Section 230 immunity is meant to incentivize and protect online good Samaritans. Platforms that purposely solicit and facilitate harmful criminal activity, in effect online bad Samaritans, should not receive the benefit of this immunity, nor should a platform receive blanket immunity for continuing to host known criminal content on its services despite repeated pleas from victims to take action. The department also proposes to more clearly carve out federal civil enforcement actions from Section 230. Although federal criminal prosecutions have always been outside the scope of Section 230 immunity, online crime is a serious and growing problem, and there is no justification for blocking the federal government from civil enforcement on behalf of American citizens. Finally, the department proposes carving out certain categories of civil claims that are far outside Section 230's core objective, which involves offenses involving child sexual abuse, terrorism, and cyberstalking. These amendments, working together, will be critical first steps in enabling victims to seek redress for the most serious of online crimes. Now, you can actually go and take a look at the proposal itself through this link. I will include that in the description below, but obviously in this proposal, Attorney General Barr is addressing specifically the censorship of conservative voices while at the same time lifting up and amplifying the voices on the left. It also hits back at these platforms such as Twitter that continues to house things such as CP on their platforms, refusing to remove it no matter how many times we report it. Also, it always seems that when people get doxxed on the right, their information remains online. However, if you're a voice on the left and you're doxxed or otherwise harmed by someone who is apparently on the right, very quickly that person on the right can expect to lose their account. Now, I myself have been doxxed online, I have been threatened online, and every single time the information remains. They never do anything about it. And these reforms right here will allow people like you and I to have some type of criminal redress if our rights are violated online. For years, too often, and especially now as we get closer to the election, people like us are having our voices silenced. Our voices, our opinions are not allowed to be heard on platforms such as Twitter or platforms such as the one you're watching right now. I'm extremely excited to see how this goes and to see if they can get it implemented before November 3rd. All right, next post, 4745, we have a reminder about that Inspector General report, Hillary Clinton Foundation and crime against children. This coming out of the report from that FBI agent who recently came forward and let us know that his superiors directed him to wipe his computer so that this information would never come out. Now in post 4746, let the truth be told. Political spying, illegal, less than 1%. Have faith in humanity. I think our favorite Anon is telling us that the actual number of people who are committing these illegal acts is less than 1% of the people involved in government. I think this may be true, but only if you take a very narrow definition of what's going on in terms of the corruption in government. Then post 4747, we have a repost of post 3837, bigger than you can imagine, more than selling of state secrets, more than selling of U.S. security, more than selling of military tech, more than selling of Clowns in America assets, more than the selling of NSA bulk data collection programs, more than selling of uranium, more than selling of U.S. space national security programs and positions, more than selling of U.S. aid, more than selling of special access programs, and then classified 1 through 99, crimes against humanity. When you cannot defeat the United States of America from attacking head-on, you change tactics and deploy a kill-from-within internal operation. That would be the infiltration instead of invasion. Financial economy, military police, division of citizenry, border collapse. Install like-minded leaders in key positions of U.S. government. How many people removed from the FBI had Iranian family backgrounds? The silent war continues. And an Anon says, bigger than you can imagine. Then moving on to post 4748, we have a New York Post article about the Hunter Biden report that was just released. And our favorite Anon asks, no media coverage? Why? The same people who control the media are the same people who are part of the evil and corrupt system of control. Crimes against humanity. You are not meant to think for yourself. You are not meant to challenge their power or control. Obey and accept. Illusion of democracy. Illusion of freedom. Why does the media push division? Why does the media incite violence? Why does the media pit race versus race? Why does the media pit religion versus religion? Why does the media pit sex versus sex? Why does the media pit class versus class? Divided, you are weak. Divided, you fight each other. Divided, you pose no threat to their system of control. Unity is strength. Unity is power. Unity is humanity. Controlled media plays a major role in shaping the narrative to keep you powerless, helpless, and asleep, unaware of the truth. Enemy of the people, enemy of humanity. There's a good reason President Trump calls the fake stream media the enemy of humanity, because they truly are. They engage in all of these tactics to keep us fighting head to head, to go after each other rather than going after the true source of our woes, and that would be our controllers. The media is in bed with these people. They want to keep us asleep. They want to stop us from realizing the true nature of our enslavement. But the thing is, that genie's already out of the bottle. We are in the midst of the Great Awakening, and this, my friends, is it in action. And finally, post 4749. We have a Twitter status from CBS This Morning. Let's take a look. And it is a hit piece on followers of this movement. It says they could have a significant influence on the 2020 election. Guess what? We will. This episode takes an inside look at the group. Now, they only interview one person, that is Dustin Nemos, but the information presented in this report is designed to defame and discredit us. Make no mistake. They don't get deep into the true nature of this movement, and they actually make fun of us for doing our own research and making up our own minds. It's clear that they do not want us to know the true nature of the reality that we live in. And the post continues, everyone has a choice to make. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. This is a direct call to us and everyone else, anyone who has taken an oath to the Constitution, anyone who wants to take part in this fight. We are working daily to fight against all enemies, foreign and domestic, against the enemies of America, the enemies of humanity. And that, my friends, is the mainstream media. There's a reason I do what I do every single day, why I work tirelessly to bring you guys this information. I know that not everybody has the chance to sit down and research all day long, to put this information together and spread it out across the world. This is my calling, and I am so honored to be able to be a part of it. And I will do this until the day I die. Mark my words. President Trump must be elected to a second term. We must fight against our controllers, and we must break free from the bonds of slavery that they have held us in for far too long. All right, now finally, Lynn Wood, the attorney for Kyle Rittenhouse, the Kenosha kid, has put out this announcement regarding an 11-minute documentary that was made explaining what happened that night in Kenosha. Let's go ahead and take a look at some reporting, and then I will leave a link to the video in the pinned comment below. So the video was actually produced by the #FightBack Foundation. This 11-minute video explains what's actually going on in the Kyle Rittenhouse case, and it includes brand new details. It fills viewers in with more details about what actually happened that fateful night in Kenosha, and it tells quite a bit about this young man, his volunteer work, and his charity work. They say every decade or so, a legal matter arises that holds the power to negatively affect our lives for generations to come. Regardless of what side of the political spectrum you identify with, this is about you. Now, the video explains that Rittenhouse started a Facebook fundraiser for a nonprofit called Humanizing the Badge, aiming to raise money for that organization for his 16th birthday. His goal, he said, was to forge stronger relationships between law enforcement officers and the communities they serve. Now, Tucker Carlson, one of the last honest people in the mainstream media, played a portion of the video last night, and the Post-Millennial wrote, "At 15 years old, Rittenhouse participated in a youth public safety cadet program in Chicago's far northern suburbs. His since-deleted Facebook profile pictures often use the thin blue line frame, a symbol of solidarity with police. Another stated in the picture's periphery, 'We back the blue.' Several of his posts paid tribute to a Chicago police officer killed in the line of duty in 2018 and the life of a McHenry County Sheriff's deputy who lost his life last year. Kyle Rittenhouse went to Kenosha not only to protect businesses and the property of business owners, but also to help rioters and protesters who they themselves got injured. Clearly, if you take a look at this video, if you watch the footage, it will show you that Kyle was acting in self-defense. These people came after him, and if it weren't for the fact that he was armed, he probably would no longer be with us. I urge you to watch this video, and I urge you to share it far and wide. People need to know the truth about Kyle Rittenhouse and what happened that night, and they need to understand his character so that they can get a full appraisal of the true nature of those events." All right, guys, that is all that I have for you today. I want to thank everyone for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am Zach the Corruption Detector, and this was another edition of Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless. Hey guys, one more thing. I just want to thank everyone for watching today. If you have not subscribed yet, I urge you to please consider subscribing. There will be a couple of videos that pop up if you want to continue to watch. There's also some ways in the description of this video that you can follow me on other platforms. Please consider doing that as well. And if you want to support the program directly, there are means to do that below as well. Thank you all for your support over the last couple of years. Consider liking and sharing this video.